Greetings, everyone. My name is Davina Liggins, and I'm with Healing Made Whole. And I hope everyone is doing well and is having a fantastic time in their life. And I wanted to come on here today to introduce you to a book. You may have heard of the book or read the book, but as you all know, I have like this campaign going on where we can really eradicate type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, all of the upstream disorders and imbalances that come prior to development of prediabetes and diabetes like hyperinsulinemia, that's high chronic levels of insulin, and that is brought about by eating high amounts of processed food and high levels of carbohydrates. And so these are plaguing the United States and other parts of the world. Type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, which is heavily related to hyperinsulinemia and what drives insulin resistance, which then drives more insulin and then drives more insulin resistance. And all this leads to prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. But I would like to remind people that high levels of insulin within itself causes problems to the body. So there's a book out here that is written by Dr. Jason Fung, and it's called The Diabetes Code, Preventing and Reversing Type 2 Diabetes Naturally. And for me, I've read this book, I've underlined it, I have really gotten into it, and I believe that this could be a tool that we could use together as a community to help build the understanding of how these diseases come about, metabolic syndrome, obesity. He also has another book out on called The Obesity Code, and he has also a phenomenal book on fasting. So there's several resources that he has out there for the general public. And so nonetheless, this book is written for the general public. And like I said, it goes beyond just diabetes. He talks about prediabetes, metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is very high. So let me just give you some statistics about diabetes. About 35 million Americans have type 2 diabetes, and about 1 in 3, this is according to the CDC, about 1 in 3 adults in the United States have prediabetes. And they say about 80% of those individuals don't even know that they have it. So there's this pipeline that has set up in our communities where there's a sure flow of people coming through who will end up with type 2 diabetes. It's become an epidemic issue in this country, and it's popping up all over the world. So we want to put an end to it. Why? Because type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, these are all lifestyle disorders. It basically comes from eating too much processed food and eating too much high carbs. That's where it comes from. And he gets really into it in this book. And so, what I would like to do is form some groups, some small groups where we get together and we'll talk about what's going on in here. And I'll do some counseling and some coaching about how to implement what it is that he's talking about. So I would love for you to purchase this book. Look for my small groups that I have coming up later in this year, starting early 2023, most likely in 2023 to start. But nonetheless, get this book. Now, who should purchase this book? Like I said, it's not just for people with prediabetes or diabetes. Anybody who has gained some weight in the mid area, anybody who has metabolic syndrome, for example, high blood pressure, high triglycerides, low HDLs. It's a whole just anybody who eats processed foods. If you have relatively high amounts of carbohydrates in your diet, this is an awesome book to understand how what we eat really impacts our body, and how just making some very simple changes in what we eat and how often we eat can really bring about healing within the body and really reverse and prevent type 2 diabetes, and also bring balance in that insulin pathway. And I would like to say that insulin, high levels of insulin, has been related to um, atherosclerosis, high blood pressure, PCOS, that's polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibroids, cardiovascular disease, stroke. So there's a lot of disorders and imbalances and diseases that come about with chronic high levels of insulin. And he talks about a little bit of that in here, and you get a sense of that if you participate in my upcoming groups. So, how can we eradicate type 2 diabetes? I would love for you to get this book and give it to your family members, give it to your friends. A lot of you are in groups with your churches, any religious groups, social groups, community groups. Get together and read this book. Together, we can really prevent um, diabetes and type 2 diabetes from just flowing through. We can cut that pipeline off. And I would like to remind people that type 2 diabetes is very serious. So is prediabetes. You don't want prediabetes in your body. But type 2 diabetes is the leading cause of kidney disease. It's the leading cause of blindness. It is the leading cause of cardiovascular disease. Most individuals with type 2 diabetes will end up suffering a heart attack, just statistically. This is what's known, or even stroke. So, this disease is not only horrible within itself, but it can be very debilitating. So, what we want to do is choke this pipeline off. We want to stop it from running through our families and running through our communities. So, if someone is not a big reader, or they feel as though it may be a little too technical for them, that is okay, because he has in here, I just want to point out some couple um, chapters in here that I think would be very helpful to people. So when you introduce the book to them, they don't have to feel so intimidated. So here is what he calls the quick guide, how to reverse and prevent type 2 diabetes, the quick start guide. That's at the beginning of the book. Throughout the book, he has, if I can quickly find one, he has testimonials of individuals who have changed their diet, changed how often they eat, and such, to reverse and prevent and this disease, prediabetes, diabetes. And then the last two chapters, you can tell people to, if they want to get to the heart and the meat of it, the last two chapters, one is about chapter 14. It's about the carbohydrate and processed food and how that impacts the disease, hyperinsulinemia, type 2 diabetes. And then the last chapter, chapter 15, he talks about intermittent fasting as being very important for preventing and reversing type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. And I would also like to point out that he has an afterword. The afterword is really speaks to his heart and why he wrote this book. He's a medical doctor who has worked with many people with type 2 diabetes, and he just got tired of them constantly getting sick. So without proper natural interventions dealing with the root of the disease, type 2 diabetes is considered chronic and progressive, and it doesn't have to be that way. And he talks about his experience as a doctor dealing with a chronic and progressive disease, so it is called, and then really realizing, hey, there must be another way. And that's why he wrote this book, to show people that there is another way, and we don't have to be out here suffering. Our loved ones don't have to be suffering. And this thing doesn't have to overcome generation after generation within our communities. And I would also like to point out that he has at the end of the book a meal plan that is intertwined with some intermittent fasting in there, and some fasting periods. So it's an awesome book. Like I said, I will be doing some small groups. We're going to be going over this book and then actually implementing and how we can change our diet to prevent and reverse type 2 diabetes and everything that comes with it. That includes obesity, hyperinsulinemia, all of that. So, to anybody who emails me, the first person who emails me at healingmadewhole@gmail.com, I will send you this book for free. This is how much I really appreciate how he put this book together. It is written for the general public, and I have no doubt that this book, if you give it to your loved ones and read it yourself, you could be saving a life, um, literally, and also preventing a lot of disability. So look for this. Look for this. I will be announcing this coming soon. We will see how this goes. It will be small groups, and I look forward to it. You all be blessed, and I will talk to you later.